Finding motion faults is critical to understanding your weak links. Once you identify those weak links, then you're able to address them through exercise or other means. Today, I want to share with you 3 common movement faults I see in the deadlift and discuss what that might indicate in terms of weak muscle groups. Fault number 1 has to do with the upper back. When an individual initiates the pull from the floor and the first thing you see is the shoulders round forward and downward, this indicates that the upper back muscles are not strong enough to maintain that starting position of the upper back. The second common fault I see on the deadlifts has to do with individuals having their middle and especially their lower back round over into flexion. This to me usually indicates there's a weakness in their core muscles or their hip flexors. I often see this with people who sit for a living. Those muscles are shortened chronically, they get tight there, they get weak. And then when you go to deadlift, those muscles aren't able to keep the spine in a neutral position while completing the deadlift, and hence the flexion occurs. The third fault I see in the deadlift happens when the individual's knees extend and the hips move backwards before the shoulders and barbell start to move vertically. To me, this indicates that there's an imbalance between the muscles on the front of the legs and the back, so between the quadriceps and the hamstrings and glutes. So what's happening here is that the person is shifting the center of mass backwards, which is going to distribute the load more onto the hamstrings and glute muscles. It's also putting the quadriceps in a different lengthened position that may be more advantageous for the lifter to complete the lift. This movement fault sometimes occurs just from a lack of care of setting up for the deadlift. If the bar is too close to your shins and you don't have a vertical shin, then you may naturally be extending your knees to get them out of the way so that the bar doesn't have to travel out and up, it can travel straight up. Now, no matter which fault you might be experiencing, you're able to figure this out with a simple video camera and a little bit of time and attention. I'm going to give you 3 ways that I use to diagnose these faults or have them come out while I'm watching or recording an athlete. We'll start with the safest and we'll move to the least safe. First, do the deadlifts with very light weights and in very slow speeds. So something like 50% of an individual's 1 repetition maximum should work, maybe lighter depending on the individual, but have them perform the deadlift or perform it yourself on camera, where it takes 3 seconds, 5 seconds, even 10 seconds long. What will happen is you'll see yourself have these little sticking points through the motion where you're transitioning from certain joint angles to others or from certain muscle groups to others. And you'll be able to pick out those sticking points, and that should give you a good indication of what muscle groups may be the weak link. Number 2, you're going to have the individual perform the deadlift for multiple repetitions with submaximal but heavy weights, something like 80 to 90% of your 1 repetition maximum. What's going to happen is the weight will be heavy enough that it should make the fault occur within a few repetitions. So you'll see a few repetitions that look really good, and then as the athlete gets fatigued, that weak muscle group will fatigue the fastest, and then it will rear its ugly head, and hopefully you'll be able to catch it, and then you'll be able to address it. Number 3, you're going to have the individual perform a maximal effort, a 1 repetition maximum. Now, obviously, this is the least safe because it's the heaviest loads, and you better have a camera on it because if it's actually a maximal effort, the individual's not going to be able to do multiple of these, right? Now, what's going to happen, though, is because you're actually trying to push the limits of your body, that weak link will fail first. And you're going to catch it, hopefully on camera. Then you'll be able to determine what the weak muscle groups are, and you'll be able to address it. All right, hopefully that gives you some ideas about common deadlift faults and what you can do to try to make them occur, hopefully in a safe manner, and detect them and determine what those weak links are so that you can address those with exercise or other methods. If you need help with your deadlift or any other exercises, Head over to strengthintelligence.ca and book a consultation with me. I'll be more than happy to chat with you, look over your footage, and help you break through that sticking point. Thanks for watching. Take care.